Now, I think most of the people in here, where you're going to have the most success of finding money for college is through merit scholarships, which state schools and private schools offer. Now, as I said, state schools in California, not so much. They don't really believe in it. They want to devote almost all of their money to need-based, to that Cal Grant program. But almost all the other schools give lots of merit scholarships. In fact, you can see, you do not have to be an A student. You don't even have to be a B student to get merit scholarships at a lot of schools, because you can see 87% of students who go to private schools get merit scholarships, which got them under why it's called merit, but it is how it is. But the average private tuition discount is significant. It's 53%. So the average kid who goes to a private college or university, their average scholarship equals a 53% tuition discount. Okay. Why is there all this merit money floating around? It used to be, when I was in school, if you had financial need, you got some financial aid, and everybody else paid full price. You know, there might have been the national merit person, the really brainiac kid might have gotten a scholarship. Most kids did not get scholarships going to college. This has changed dramatically because of these guys. These are some copies of my U.S. News World Report rankings. I wish I could talk about this. I have it in my book, The College Solution, which I should have had up here, and I don't have it up here. But anyway, this has changed the behavior of colleges in very bad ways, I'd say. And I've written a lot about this. But colleges are obsessed with inching up in the rankings or not losing ground to their competitors. So how do they do that? They use merit scholarships to attract students who might help them look better to U.S. News and World Report rankings. Okay, so that is one reason why there's a lot of money today flowing more towards wealthy, affluent students who tend to have, gone to better high schools, have more than likely have better GPAs and test scores, because test scores are highly correlated with income. Millions of kids on Saturday are going to be taking the SAT, and the students whose parents make $200,000 a year, who take that test on Saturday, in general, are going to do better than the students whose parents make $150,000. And they're going to do better than the kids who make $150,000 on down the line, or $100,000. Okay, it's just the way it is. So that's why there's so much merit scholarships. And you might think, why do they need all this? Because most schools are rejecting most students. That's not true at all. It might feel like that in California, but it's so not true, especially if you look outside the state. Every year, UCLA does an exhaustive survey of college freshmen, like I think 250,000. And every year, it's about the same conclusion, that when they ask the kids, freshmen at four-year institutions, how many of you got into your first choice school? About 75% say they did. So you're just kind of in a little bubble out here in California, but which is a good reason why you should look outside the state, because California kids are very hot, very, very hot outside the state. It's just not so here because there are too many of them. Right? And here's just a chart. I wrote about this recently in my blog, collegesolution.com. The growing popularity of merit aid. There's a big study that was done of this. You can see merit aid is the blue. At public schools, you can see how it's been rising. And need-based aid hasn't risen much. And you can look on the right-hand side of private schools. You can see how merit money has gone up considerably, and need-based aid has stagnated, which is not really a good. I don't like to show this to kids when I talk to inner city kids in San Diego, because it's just too depressing. But I will share this with you. So now I'm going to talk to you about state university aid, financial aid, and merit aid, and then I'm going to talk about private schools. Okay. A lot of students who feel like, hey, I'd like to go outside of California for school. Frankly, kids don't know hardly any schools, right? And the ones they do know are the ones that everybody knows, right? And they tend to know the state university. Well, they know the Ivy Leagues. They know some of the state flagships. Particularly the more prominent ones are the ones that are in fun areas like Boulder, Colorado or Arizona. Now, all these schools and many other top state flagship schools give merit scholarships to outsiders, but it's not a princely slum, because what they want outsiders to spend a lot of money, right? Because their state support is slipping. So affluent families students are much more popular today at schools that used to be pretty much devoted to educating their own children. Okay, so your child could have a much greater chance of getting into schools like this, but whether they get a merit scholarship will be another thing, or how much it is. Like University of Michigan gives a lot of like $6,000 or so scholarships, but it's a $50,000 school. Arizona gives a lot, more closer to $7,000, but it's a very expensive school, right? And to get scholarship money from these, you pretty much have to look good in your numbers, GPA, class rank, test scores, because universities, as opposed to colleges, they can't look at you holistically. They just have to look at the numbers because they got tens of thousands of applications. So it's just a number, right? Nothing personal. And you can see here, you can see on the right-hand side, what is the price for non-residents? And the UCs, if it's any consolation, because everybody I know is here mad that the UCs are taking more non-residents so they can soak them, charge them a lot of money. At least outsiders are paying a lot of money if they come to the UCs. In fact, I was talking to a friend of mine as a insider at UCSD, and he was telling me that when the UCs decided to make a pitch to get outside students, that they were trying to decide, what should we charge these people? And they decided, let's just charge them more than Michigan. So you can see Michigan, all the UCs are right above Michigan. That's how they did it. Really, it's a true story. Now, most state universities are going to be more generous. It's not going to be, if you're going beyond the premier flagships, it's going to be easier to get scholarships from state universities outside of California. One way is through the Western Undergraduate Exchange. There's a lot of schools in these states that are in this WUE program where you can, if your child gets in, you can pay 150% of what the cost of the school is for a resident. And frankly, some of these schools are so much cheaper than in California that even when you're paying 150%, you're still paying a lot. You're getting a deal compared to what it would cost to go to state schools in this state. Okay. Here are just some of the schools that are in the WUE program. That school, pretty picture is of Western Washington, which it's a wonderful school. It has an awesome, well-regarded honors college there. I have a friend from San Diego, whose daughter is very happy there. And I would suggest when you're looking at schools like this, see if your children could qualify for honors colleges, because typically you're more likely to get priority registration, get out in 4 years, maybe get a better dorm, have smaller classes, that sort of thing. And then now what about private colleges and universities? I'm going to focus on the need-based aid and then also merit scholarships. Right? Here's just some examples of schools, just kind of pick randomly. I picked my son's school in there, Beloit, that show what kind of average merit scholarship a student who's a high-income student can get. Not everybody gets that, but you can see there's some hefty dollar amounts. This is reserved for kids who have no financial need. Okay. And you can see down there Stanford. Actually, Stanford, their average merit scholarship is $1,009. There's just one of them. That's it. So you got to wonder, who is that kid? Like, wow. And he or she could have gotten so much more anywhere else, right? But he wanted to go to Stanford, and his parents are probably paying $59,000, but they did get $1,000 off the books. So, now, schools that don't, almost all schools in this country give merit scholarships to high-income kids. Almost all of them. The ones that don't are places like Stanford, right, or just have one. And then the schools highest in the rankings, like all the Ivy Leagues, they don't give money because, why don't they? Think about it. They don't have to. They've got lots of wealthy kids. That's most of the school. So if most schools highest in the rankings do not give merit scholarships. Now, if schools like Harvard and Princeton and Dartmouth started slipping in the rankings, then they would start giving merit. If they would start getting, sweating that, oh my gosh, we have to start giving merit scholarships. But they're not there. Now, beyond merit scholarships, schools give a variety of, there's a variety of, there's some schools that are generous, some schools that are stingy, and some schools in the middle. The school, and this is for need-based aid, and don't necessarily assume, I can't possibly qualify for need-based aid. The more expensive the school is, the more likely you would qualify. And I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But here's some examples. The most elite schools are going to give the best financial aid, okay? Like Stanford and Pomona. USC says makes 100%, but its average grant is a lot lower. And then you have schools like University of Redlands and Willamette, wonderful schools, but they're not going to be as generous, because most schools aren't. So what I tell people who are going to find that they need financial aid is to, one, tell your child to be do as well in school as possible, because you're going to have more options and you're going to be able to see what schools, how high up you can go as far as schools that give the best financial aid. Okay. Now, the schools that tend to be the most expensive and the stingiest are universities on the coast, in cities. Also obvious, right? Because kids, if they think, oh, I want to go somewhere for college, they want to go in city. They want to live in New York or Washington or Philly or Los Angeles or the Bay Area. And so these schools are incredibly stingy with financial aid. In fact, I just cringe. Anytime anybody who needs financial aid would say they're going to want to go to one of these schools, I would say, don't do it. I'd tackle them and say, you can't go, because this could be a financial disaster. Because this is the percentage of need they say they meet, but that also includes a loan. Okay. At Santa Clara, I like to dump on NYU, but I've been picking on Santa Clara lately too, because that school, if you look at federal statistics on what the net price is for the poorest students who go to Santa Clara, it's over $40,000. It's like, how could they even do that? But they do it.